Hi everyone, this is Emanuele from Italy, but you know me better as Evil Dead Italia. Today we are starting with a series about the celebration of the 10th anniversary of Ash vs. Evil Dead with a very special guest, composer Joseph LoDuca. Personally, for me, this is a full circle moment. Back in 1994, before the internet was even a thing, I bought my very first Army of Darkness soundtrack CD by mail order, and I've been following Joseph's music ever since. We'll talk about his journey from the early days of the Evil Dead to Ash vs. Evil Dead and beyond into the many other chapters of incredible career. Welcome, Joseph. Very nice to have you here.
Emanuele, so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's a, as I said, it's an honor. Your first CD I get, Army of Darkness, by mail. It was there was a catalog, a physical catalog, and I have to search for the CD and then write or telephone and getting it by mail. So it was,
A
back
journey
in the
just to get
days.
it. Yes.
Yeah. Back in the days. So let's start with the very first question. Just a moment. Okay. When you first scored Evil Dead, could you imagine that music will become a such vital part of a franchise lasting over 4 decades?
No. How could I? How could I? Evil Dead is just the gift that keeps on giving to me anyway. The it just mushroomed. It just kept going and going. We did one, we did two, we did three. And then a total surprise when Ash vs. Evil Dead came back, and I got to work with Sam on that. And now, I don't know if you're aware, Emanuele, there is a series of live to picture Evil Dead shows where we're playing the music from the original Evil Dead. Actually, I've rewritten it, and it is beginning, I guess, this week, a 50-city tour in the US.
It's the Evil Dead in Concert initiative, right?
That's right. That's right.
Oh, I invite so much people in the US because I've seen all the schedule of that show, and every show is in the US. So you are
Yes.
physically going to each show
No,
presenting
I'm
there?
no, I'm not. No, I'm not. They but they do have consistent musicians and a conductor that are traveling with the show. Initially, I was the keyboard player, the guitar player, and the auxiliary percussionist in the show. In the first few times that we performed the show in Los Angeles, a few years ago in Melbourne, just before COVID, with the Melbourne
Mhm.
Symphony, and very often in tandem with the 2-record vinyl set that I did for Mondo Recordings, the Alamo Drafthouse. I would conduct a suite of the music, if you will. We had a pop-up concert, for example, at Amoeba Records in Los Angeles, which was a lot of fun.
Oh wow, it must be wonderful. Watching the movies with the music behind it, or having just a concert about Evil Dead, it should be great.
It's a lot of fun for everybody, really, with the movie, with the music, the live movie. It's scary, it's funny. People have a great, great time.
So you are telling you are using the original music or the Nightmare Reimagined one?
I think all of the Nightmare Reimagined is incorporated into the score, and then there are some cues, just I don't know, for nostalgia's sake, that are from the original recording. Um, but it grew out of the fact that I rewrote the Nightmare Reimagined for the string quintet, actually, 5 strings.
Yeah, and then I have a question about that, but we arrive on it later. Um, so, looking back, how did you approach the very different tones of the three movies? The first one was very different from the second, and in particular from the third. What changed in the meantime?
The budgets. The very first Evil Dead had a tiny music budget, and I figured I could get the most sound out of a string quintet. But then anything else that was available to me, banging inside the piano. My good friend Larry Fratangelo was a member of the group. Excuse me, I'm so sorry about this.
Don't worry.
Parliament Funkadelic, the group Parliament Funkadelic here in Detroit, because we perform the music here in the Detroit area, which is where my home was and now is. And he had all manner of noisemakers, percussion noisemakers. I rented what was then the first polyphonic synthesizer available commercially, which was the Prophet 5, to sort of fill out a fake orchestra, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first time. The second time I had a bigger budget, and so I had an orchestra of maybe 45 that we recorded in Los Angeles. And then Army of Darkness, because of the subject matter, we had a larger orchestra, maybe 65, and then we had a choir, which was fun.
Wow. So I mean, it's a scale reason, and even the style they changed, or it was even that is let's say given by the limits you had.
It was given by the limits, of course, and then it was given by the ambitions of the filmmaker.
In the Army of Darkness, you have even a Danny Elfman team. Did you work together for that? You worked alone, and then the track was inserted in the score. How did this come out?
Yeah, well, initially, Sam needed a piece that he wanted pre-recorded for the first part of the battle in Act 3, because he wanted to shoot to a piece of music, and he had already worked with Danny on Darkman. So he had Danny compose that music, and that's what's in the movie. And then I was brought on to do the rest of the score. If you listen to the soundtrack, it's sort of a standalone piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a great piece, a great March in 5/4, only Danny.
So now we are arriving at Ash vs. Evil Dead, which is soon celebrating its 10th anniversary. When you returned for the series, how did you approach continuing that musical journey after so many years?
Well, it was a very, very familiar experience. I happened to be living in Los Angeles at the time, and I look back to Ash vs. Evil Dead very fondly. Bruce Campbell was living 2 blocks from me in Burbank, and I was in Toluca Lake. Ted Raimi was also about a half a mile from me. Lucy Lawless, when she'd come into town, would be in an Airbnb 2 blocks away. And I got to work with Sam Raimi again. And it was just a very, very familiar experience. And it was fun to do this, having learned what we learned. And so after working together, we sort of had a shorthand of what we wanted to do for the pilot, because the pilot is probably the most ambitious episode directed by Sam. And so again, we had some singers, we had a chorus for some of the cues on that, and had a decent sized orchestra. So it was great.
And one part that really stands out to me is the initial piece of music when the Ash vs. Evil Dead title screen goes out. Na na na. How that come out? I mean, did you manage to have the scene before you found a nice motif and then put on it?
Yeah, it's a whatever it is, a 10-second main title. And I think what I think Sam's comment when we were spotting the movie was, what did he reference? He referenced Creature from the Black Lagoon, right? And what I remember of that score, it was all the brass that fluttered, right? And so it's a 3-note motive. Evil Dead, right? That's
Ah,
what it is.
ah, that-
And Sam half jokingly said, "Joe, it's the best thing you've ever written." What can I say?
Yeah, I really love that anyway because I mean they always put in a way that there is some effort after a bunch of blood on the screen, so it's very effective. Very
Well,
effective.
it says it's horror, but it's fun. I
Yeah,
think very in a very short space of time, you get that from that little whatever you want to call it, tattoo, right?
hmm yeah, yeah, yeah. And now I have the cool. I think one cool question because I searched for it. I searched, but I didn't found nothing about it. In the very first episode, there is a scene in which Ash have a flashback and tell to another character, Pablo, how he fought the Evil Dead in the first movie. And there is a music in that flashback, and it is the overture of Nightmare Reimagined, but
Yes.
it was still not released. So how that come out? I mean,
Well, I think what happened was is I had my music editor worked on the temporary music for the episode, and I suggested to him that for the flashback we use that piece which was had already existed, and it works great. It works great there. So in other words, the piece had existed and hadn't been released yet. But you're right. Very good, Emanuele. You caught it.
yeah, yeah. I was searching. I mean, it's something I need to spot because when you listen to a soundtrack and you watch the movie and you don't find the music you have seen, you get a little bit mad. I mean, my dad is a James Bond soundtrack collect.
Oh, oh
He's a James
yeah,
Bond fan. He collect all the
yeah.
James Bond soundtrack. And recently, the a production CDA production house started to deliver a complete soundtrack with the missing pieces.
Oh, that's very funny.
Yeah,
Right.
so there is a
Every
lot of
lost
music,
bit, they'll do that eventually. Yes. Well, the I love that overture, by the way. It's a very cool piece of music, and that's what we play. That's what is played in the Evil Dead live concerts before the show. It's used as an overture.
Yeah, it makes full sense. I'm sad that I never have the possibility to see the whole movie with the new music, and I hope that someone will decide to release a special edition Blu-ray with a
Oh,
different track because it could be a great idea. I mean, because if you don't see it in live, you cannot see never this.
I'll mention it to my friends at Blank Ink. Maybe they'll take it upon themselves to do that,
Oh,
to make a recording.
it should very great. It will be great because outside the US there is no many possibilities to if you don't travel to there obviously. Okay. So were there particular talking about Ash versus Evil Dead? The show mixes horror, action, and comedy. How did you translate that blend into the score?
Well, most of the time, with all of the Evil Dead music, even though there's comedy, 90% of the time, the music is the straight man. I don't acknowledge the comedy. Um, every once in a while, the situation is so ridiculous that you just have to go with the comedy. Now, in the movies, when the mirror breaks in Army of Darkness, and there's three little ashes that run around and create havoc. It's a cartoon, so we play it as a cartoon. In Ash versus Evil Dead, there are some instances of comedy in the music, but most of the time, when there is ridiculous violence, a face going through a meat slicer, for example, I can't help. I've told Rob Tapper, the producer, I can't help you here. Let's find a song, find a rock song that goes there. And that lets the audience know, please don't take this seriously. Let's just have fun with it, right? And so more often than not, we chose a song, a rock song, more often than not, to go into that mode, when we go into that gear, if you will.
So you helped even in choosing the songs in the whole season. I mean, because
I
they
wouldn't, I
are
wouldn't, I wouldn't choose the songs per se, but I would say we go to a song here. I can't help you with the humor of this situation. I just can't. You know, a song will tell everybody, just have fun with this.
okay. That's cool. That's cool. I mean, one thing that I think people really loved about the series is the mix between a standard soundtrack and the music, usually from the 70s, but even from the 80s, maybe,
Well,
right?
it had to, most of the time from the 70s, because the whole idea is Ash is stuck in the 70s, right? And that was the whole thing. And even though some of the music of the cues, like riding in a car or transition cues, the music I would write was sort of reminiscent of a score or a rock score from that period. It was retro on purpose. There's nothing in the music of the series that sounds particularly contemporary. You know, we didn't go down that road of synthesizer horror or anything like that. That would have been later in the canon of horror music. Also, look, the choice of in the pilot of Ash versus Evil Dead, it's the song "Journey to the Center of Your Mind" by
Yeah.
the Amboy Dukes, the Detroit band that Ted Nugent, again another Detroit rock icon, was a member of that group. So there was a very specific reason for choosing that song. It's a shout out to Detroit, if you will, as is the Delta 88, the car that Ash drives.
Yeah.
That's in all of the episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about the score, one is a stupid question, I know, but you scored the whole soundtrack, but basing on the first episode, you scored it on the multiple episodes. You have already all the episode in front of you when you scored. You scored before, and something was adapted, and then there are 3 seasons. Your score was reused then, right? For
Well, there are cues that are reused sometimes in every episode. I had a very talented music editor in New Zealand, and that Jason we would look at those episodes and see what made sense. If we were revisiting a certain situation that wasn't particularly new, or something, a theme, for example, we were revisiting, there's a character, I think, Ball, who's the devil, right?
yeah.
In that we would reuse his theme. The creation of a lot of new music depends on the writing. Depends a lot on the writing. If the writers take us in places we've never seen before, we haven't been before, characters we have never seen before, well, that's going to demand a lot of new music. If we're in the familiar, right, then there's a chance over seasons that cues will be reused. It's not every series does it. There's
Okay.
no composer that writes every cue of every episode brand new when you have this much music. I mean, there are shows, let's say the show is 50 minutes in length,
Hmm.
55 Jingwanda, right?
Right?
and there'd be 45 minutes of music sometimes. So, it's a lot to expect that there's going to be new music, nor is there a real reason to do that.
Okay, so you are telling me that there is a lot of reuse and sometimes you had to intervene, or there is a lot of reuse and someone that work on your base and then do something by himself.
I think I would rephrase that somewhat. Um, I wrote all the music, okay, of the whole series, but you tend to amass a library of music, right?
Yeah,
The first season, you're starting from scratch. It's all new music, right? But after a while, you have this great library, and there is always on a show, there's always temporary music because the producers have to show the network, in this case, Stars, they have to show them the episode and they have to get final editorial approval where they're not going to show the executives at the network an episode with no music in it, right?
clear. Yeah,
So they're going to use music. And once we amass a library, we want to show them music that I've written. So we're going to reuse the music anyway to show them. It might not be perfect, but it might be close enough. And in many cases, the music that we've put in to show the network in some scenes, short scenes, longer scenes perhaps, it is perfect. So there's no reason to change it. Does that make sense?
yeah. There is a question related to this. Working on a TV series so is very different from scoring music for a film. I mean, the creative process is different, or just the production at the end.
Well, the process is different because I think if you think of it this way, the pilot episode is the movie.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
whole everybody wants to look at it. Everybody has an opinion. There's always a lot of changes within the editorial. There are reshoots. Everybody wants to get that pilot perfect, right? To make that best first impression on the audience. Well, that's what a film is. The difference is a film, it's its own universe. As a beginning, middle, and end. And you're probably not going to see it again unless you get a sequel. But that withstanding, that's the difference. What happens in a series is there's going to be, you want to create a sense of familiarity with the characters. You want to get to know the characters. You want to put them in situations you haven't seen before. And again, that's on the writers. That's on the writers to take you on the longer journey. And the job of a composer is to uh, keep what's familiar and develop the new.
Yeah, yeah. I can feel this, and I remember, for example, that in the very first episode, there is some resemble to the first soundtrack right at the beginning. In the beginning, the scene when the police girl was the police is searching for the first dead eye. Let's say there is some recall from the original soundtrack, right?
Uh, Not consciously. I think the idea of that, going into a creepy house, there might be some devices that you might use that are tried and true. Um, um, Writing for horror is a mixture, or at least in the Evil Dead Sam Raimi universe, is a mixture of the familiar and the unfamiliar. I think one of the things that is consistent throughout all of that horror genre is that you're going to use organic sounds.
Yeah,
You're not gonna have a lot of synthesized sounds. So you're working within that ball of wax, that that world of acoustic sound, which is, different from other, say, more contemporary approaches to horror, that do more electroacoustic, or that rely more on synthesizer sounds, or the blending of the two. I've done horror movies that are more in that genre, but that's never the Evil Dead world. It's always the organic and the acoustic world.
Clear. And I was thinking, you brought even other styles to your music. I remember, I don't remember the title of the track, but I'm pretty sure that is the Ash theme, right? Remind me a Western,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's Ash with a shotgun, and we decided to make him that kind of hero. I think that the idea is Sam responds very well when the hero is played on the hero theme is played on French horns. So there is that.
It's something anyway that you did talking about Evil Dead just in the series, right? We don't have stuff like that in the other three movies, if I'm not wrong.
Ask me again. What was the question?
That you said that Sam really liked this kind of sound, and it was that I was asking. There is nothing like this in the other movies, so is a new thing, or is something that there is and I didn't notice?
Um, Again, we're in the acoustic world. I'm at this point, 10 years ago, I'm 3 decades into my experience as a film composer. So I'm bringing that, but also knowing what the genre of what the franchise is and what the franchise demands. So you're asking what was new. I suppose one of the things that was new as the series progressed was that the way we process the acoustic sounds and what's available now with software and computers and plugins, so that the ways we can manipulate those acoustic sounds had changed. And that would be, I suppose, the new way, or the new things. It wasn't in the music itself, but it was in the processing of the music. That's what I'd have to say was the most different.
Clear, I understood. There is a particular track that you loved more than the others, something that stands out in your memories.
I love the episode where there was an evil puppet. I don't recall what it was. There was an
Actually,
evil puppet with Ash hallucinating. And that episode was weirdly, very weirdly comic in a way. And I loved doing that one.
great. I have now. I have to rewatch it to listen to the specific.
Well, what
part of it.
Emanuele, really, I should have gone back and listened to some of the music, but as always, I suppose this happens with a lot of film composers. When you finish the music, you're obsessed with the music. It runs on in your head, and what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to immediately forget it so you can write the next piece of music.
Yeah.
And I have to say, that's kind of where we're at. So I apologize for not doing my homework
No,
for this interview.
But no. I mean, it's more curiosity by my side. I mean, watching again and noticing the cue of that one. Okay. So let's talk about something else. I mean,
Okay.
we talked about Evil Dead. I mean, about the series, but I'm very curious about the process of reimagining, the soundtrack. So we already said you used one track for the first episode, but uh, how was the whole process of developing A Nightmare Reimagined, and what was the reason for which you decided to take this journey?
Well, it was a good question. Um, so often people ask me, do you ever write music just for yourself? And the answer is most of the time, no. No, I don't. Um, if a child is born, if somebody's getting married, I write music. Our daughter got married, for example, 3 months ago, and I wrote
Oh,
a suite of music for string quartet for her wedding, for example.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It was the most wonderful week of our lives. And in the case of Evil Dead Reimagined, so many times when I've been asked to do a horror score, um, and often they're in confined spaces, right? A haunted house, a barn, a creepy barn, whatever. Um, I've often tried to convince the director to say, you know what, 4 or 5 strings, 8 strings, that's all we need. Smaller, intimate, right? It's creepier and can be scarier. You hear the scrape of each bow, you know. And more often than not, they're very afraid of that idea because if it's going to be shown in a theater and a big screen, we need something big to scare. And so there was a period where I thought to myself, okay, I've been doing this for a long time now. If I was asked to score Evil Dead today with that small ensemble, what might it sound like? So I didn't really look at the movie, but I thought of some of the scenes away from picture, and I started writing for just the string quintet. Just the string quintet. I thought was kind of cool. And I came up with a suite of music. And because so many times through the years is I was asked, well, can we re-release the score to the original movie? Well, we gave up the rights to that a long time ago, and who knows where they're at. Um, and I thought to myself, well, what would it sound like if I wrote this music today? So Mondo Records thankfully stepped in and said, let's do this, write the music, record the music, and we'll release it on vinyl with the sort of curated artwork with new artwork, and that's kind of what they do for the fans. So the suite existed, and then my agent, Richard Kraft, said, well, you've gone this far with it. Why don't we do a live to picture show? And of course, they've done many live to picture shows, with Danny Elfman, as you had mentioned, with Alan Menken, with John Debney now, a lot of their clients. So we put together a show, a live to picture show. And in order to do that, we needed the whole score. And so I adapted this suite to the film, wrote new pieces, brought in some of the old pieces. And that's how that whole Evil Dead Live concert evolved. It was just my thinking, what if? What if I did it to today? What might it sound like? And I was really happy with the results because it is intimate, it is scary, and it's informed by a much older and wiser composer.
Yeah, I like it very much. As I said, I have difficulty to associate, the sound to the scene because I never seen the whole,
Right,
opera.
right.
But I think that it should be very effective. I mean,
hmm hmm
and I'm very curious to see in the future.
Well, maybe if this tour goes well and there's interest in Europe, maybe they'll bring it to
Yeah,
Europe. Who knows?
yeah, it could be a great thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Ask,
talking,
you know what you should do? You should, oh wait, this came through my agent, but yes, yes, I'll forward that interest and see what we can do there.
yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. And you're talking about the light show. Have you ever seen the musical? It's not your score, but have you ever seen the
Evil Dead.
the
Oh,
musical?
the no, I haven't. I've seen bits of it. I thought it was very interesting and creative and fun. Uh, but I don't know too much about it.
I discovered that somewhere it was made even a ballad about Evil Dead, but I never seen that one. So there are a lot of different medias and shows about this great franchise.
Well, on the original film, um, for a laugh, um, I wrote a little song called "The Book of the Dead" and did it with bongos and piano and did it as a terrible lounge Frank Sinatra singer, kind of like what Bill Murray used to do, that gag. And that exists somewhere. But yeah, you can't you know, it's something that you can have fun with. Evil Dead is something you can have fun with.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's scary but even fun. So you can have both, right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's always better when they go together.
Yeah, yeah, I agree because I mean this is my favorite franchise, and maybe one of the reason is this merge of different.
Yeah, because I think if you have the appropriate release and the comedic release, then you leave the theater entertained as opposed to scared shitless.
Yeah. Um, I would like to ask you one thing. You usually do your work, let's say, in your studio, or sometimes you are on set and
Yeah,
work with the director.
I very rarely have been on set. I don't enjoy being on set, and I don't know how the actors do it because it's basically waiting around forever for something to happen. And I suppose if someone were to sit next to me as I was composing, they would feel the same way. Um, there was an incident. Uh, my daughter lives in Austin, which is the
Mhm,
home of the South by Southwest Festival,
mhm,
which has a lot of music in it. And I was invited because I was just there as a visitor, visit my daughter. I was invited to play along on a set that my friend, departed friend Wayne Kramer from the Motor City Five curated, uh, and we played a set. We had quite a few guests artists, um, and at the end of the set, my daughter said, "Dad, that was great. I never heard you play a whole song before." Because it's me pecking out bar by bar, phrase by phrase.
Yeah, yeah. What is your favorite instrument? I mean, I hear you sing guitar. You play guitar somewhere,
Yeah,
sometime.
yeah. I mean, I was going to be a jazz guitarist, even up until through the first, second Evil Dead. That was what I intended to do. I had a band. Now I play everything with strings because, for example, I just finished a season of Spartacus, which has been renewed by Stars.
Hmm.
And so I play a lot of Middle Eastern instruments. I play the oud, tambur, uh, sitar, a lot of those instruments. I've had two South American, uh, scores where I played from Rocco and yeah, just all kinds of all anything with strings I love. Cello, you know.
Yeah, yeah. A- And while we are talking about this, do you think that new technologies, and in particular artificial intelligence, could give you some help, or they are just tools that need to be tamed, let's say, in some way, to give a good result? Okay. Yeah.
Technology. No, technology is wonderful. Technology is wonderful. I mean, the amount of sounds you have available at your disposal, the way you can process sounds, the computing power, the kind of sounds that I can create quickly and easily. I mean, that's the whole thing about being a film composer. This is all great, but how how quickly can you do all this? Um, and so I've embraced the technology. In fact, we're installing new computers here next month with
Mhm.
more computing power than we've had before. And I'm really looking forward to that. I think the thing that we've lost is, and of course, with all of these Zooms, is the spirit of collaboration. We're we're Zooming, we're not in person. We don't, I've often run orchestral sessions remotely, you know, so I don't get to see my colleagues as much as I used to. And of course, I've chosen not to live in Los Angeles right now. So there is this idea of isolation, you know. That's what the technology perhaps has. That's the downside of the technology, and I think it's the downside socially for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I mean, there is the advantage that maybe you can talk to someone of the other part of the world, like we are doing like now,
La
but
possono.
it happens even if you are I don't know 5 minutes of distance by foot, you know.
Right. Oh no, I understand that. So yes, that's the advantage. I get to talk to you, Emanuele.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, I have just few questions before leaving you. The first one is that your career spans so many genres, from horror to fantasy to historical drama. How do you adapt your musical voice to such different worlds?
Well, I think that you just have to uh, you have to you have to really do what the film needs. I like doing smaller independent films because I get asked to do things, uh, different things. I mentioned about doing a score that was uh, primarily influenced by South American music and South American instruments. Um, I've done a comedy recently, which is uh, Jewish themed. So I get to dive into that genre of music, sort of klezmer, but also contemporary, sort of indie flavored, a lot of guitars, mandolins, etc. Um, I just did a movie for Bruce Campbell, our friend Bruce Campbell, which is kind of a odd romantic comedy. And I have moments that are inspired by Nino Rota, you know. So um, I think the idea is to be a film composer means that you have to be open and a quick study on any genre that you are asked. Now, some composers really define their singular voice and do one type of music. Bernard Herrmann, right? His sound is unmistakable. Uh, Trent Reznor, his sound is unmistakable. I suppose I'm a composer that genre hops a lot more, and I don't know if I have a distinctive voice. That's for other people to decide. I think that growing up as an outlier, for example, in Michigan, you have to be more adaptable. That's kind of, and Midwesterners, for example, people that live in the middle of the U.S. are tend to be more adaptable, I suppose. It's a general sweeping statement, but I think there's some truth to it. I think when you are out on the coasts to achieve an artistic identity, you really, really have to really, really hone away at your particular individuality and stick with it. That's not necessarily me, I don't think. I do what the film needs. The film speaks to me, and I think I try to deliver what I believe it needs. And luckily, I work with people who agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I have the very last question, and then I let you free to. Looking back at your long collaboration with Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, and Rob Tupper, what do you feel is the most enduring part of that creative partnership?
Well, on my part, gratitude. It's made a career for me that I didn't see coming at the time, but also it's trust. To use a musical analogy, to work on a project or a production, whether it be a movie, a musical, a song, a television series, the ensemble is a band, right? It's a big band. And I'm lucky to be a member. I want to be in your band. All right. And I've been in some really good bands, if you will. So I think that is, that's there. And so the enduring quality is trust, right? Joe will take care of the music. We don't have to worry about Joe. We don't have to worry about the music. It'll be there. It'll be what we want. It'll be great. And so I think that's the enduring quality, is the trust that I'm given.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I mean, it's great that you do you still work together as far as understood, right? With Bruce and
well, I just like I said, I did Bruce's movie, and he was my first call, and I'm grateful for that. I don't know what's coming down the road, but I have some other projects that I work on with, collaborations. I mean, I've worked on Dean Devlin's television productions for 2 decades now, from The Librarians to Leverage to other one-off projects that he's done, sci-fi films. Yeah.
Wow. So thank you very much.
And Chucky. How can we talk about horror? Chucky. Don Mancini, Chucky.
The last one, right?
The last 2 movies, and then the television series. Did you get the television series in Italy?
No, because I'm not a huge fan. Not that I don't like it, but it's not my favorite franchise, so I still need to recover that one. But I love it.
But was it available? The series?
Yeah. Okay. Somewhere, yes. I don't remember. Usually here stuff arrives later.
Right. Or not at all. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Or streaming, eventually streaming.
Yes,
right?
Physical stuff nowadays harder to find. But right. We are a strong collector, so we need to have the physical release of something.
Yeah.
So, Joe, thank you so much for taking the time to share these memories and insight with us. It's been a real honor to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Ash vs. Evil Dead together, and to look back to the incredible journey of your music from the very first movie of Evil Dead all the way to today. And to everyone watching, thank you for joining us. We'll see you then next time.
Molte grazie, Emanuele.
Bye.
Piacere di fare la tua conoscenza.
My pleasure too. Grazie mille, Joseph. Ciao.
Bye. Ciao.